If I'm being honest with you, Kurt, I think the reprimands given to Mark Webber and Fernando Alonso is absolutely nonsense. I think for Mark to get a 10th place drop just for what he did at Singapore, I think it's an absolute joke. I mean, yes, Fernando stopped on the racing line, but it was at the end of the race, and okay, Lewis Hamilton, Nico Rosberg had to swerve at the last moment, but to get a reprimand for that, I think it's just ridiculous. I really do, and I just wish the stewards would just use their common sense and giving Webber a fine or just a slap on the wrist to say just don't do that again. I think would have been the perfect solution. So for Webber to get a 10th place drop just for that, for the Korean Grand Prix, I think it's an absolute joke. And the drivers, they just want consistency from the stewards when it comes to making decisions. And this season, I have to say, they've made some questionable decisions, the stewards. I have to say that, and I'm sure it's not an easy job. I wouldn't like to do it, but they just need to be consistent. And if they can do that, then I think the stewards will gain a lot more respect from the drivers. So, like I said, the drivers want a lot more respect from the stewards, and I just think that they want a lot more consistency when it comes to the decisions. But as for the Mark Webber and Fernando Alonso reprimands, I think I think it's just absolute nonsense. And I just wish the stewards just use their common sense. Absolutely, Darth. I think Sebastian Vettel definitely does deserve a lot of credit and a lot of respect for what he's doing. I mean, to be pulling away at 2 seconds a lap from the second place man every lap in Singapore was just breathtaking. It really was. And Sebastian, he's doing a great job. And what can he do to stop people booing? Sebastian, he just can't stop winning, to please the crowd. I mean, yes, the crowd wants to see someone different win, but Sebastian at the end of the day has a job to do, and he wants to win races, and you have to give him credit for for what he's doing in that Red Bull car. I think the fans are starting to get to grips with the fact that this could be another Schumacher Ferrari era where Schumacher won, I think it was 5 world championships on the trot, and the same could exactly happening with Vettel and Red Bull. But Sebastian, he knows what he has to do. He keeps winning races, and he's deserved to win those races. Yes, I'd like as neutrals, we'd like to see someone different win races. I mean, we saw first 7 different winners in the first 7 races of the last season. Would like to see more of that this year. But take nothing away from Sebastian. I think he's done a great job, and all he has to do really is just ignore those and just take no notice of those people who are booing him, and just get on with his job. I think the fact that people have been booing him has just made him even more stronger, to be honest with you. So do Ferrari have a problem with their car or aero, or does it come down to the tyres? I think it's come mainly down to the tyres, to be honest with you. I think after what happened at Silverstone, where we had those, I think it was 4 tyre blowouts, I think that has a big effect on Ferrari, the likes of Ferrari, Lotus and Force India, because those were the 3 teams before the blowouts that were actually dealing with their tyres and managing their tyres really well. So I think Ferrari have lost out, and since the tyres have been changed, I think Ferrari haven't exactly been at their best. But after what happened at Silverstone, it was pretty obvious that Pirelli had to do something, and Ferrari have just lost out, and in qualifying they haven't really been able to get close to Red Bull. And in the race, Fernando has been able to make up for his low position in qualifying in the race, and he's been able to finish on the podium. But Fernando, really, what we want to see is we want to see the Ferrari right up there with Sebastian, and we want to see him challenging Vettel. Because it looks like Sebastian's going to run away with his championship now. I think it's pretty inevitable that Vettel will be crowned world champion. But I also think Ferrari are just lacking that little bit more experience as well in the aero department. Obviously Red Bull, Adrian Newey makes such a massive difference. if Ferrari had someone similar, or if they had Adrian Newey on board, I think you'd see Ferrari winning championships and drivers' championships. So whether Adrian would make the move to Ferrari, I don't know. I think Ferrari are lacking in the aero department, and I also feel that the tyres, since they were changed after the British Grand Prix of this year, it's had a big effect on Ferrari's fortunes this season, so far anyway. I think Tony Fernandez makes a very good point about teams that need to work with each other to save money and for the sport to survive. It's not just in Formula One, but companies worldwide are having to make people redundant and save money, which is unfortunate. But I think it's equally important for Formula One teams to take on new staff as well, to give people that that foot in the door into Formula One. I think that's more important. I think that's important as well. Obviously, on the track, teams will be wanting to beat each other, and they'll be wanting to do the best they can. But yeah, I think Tony Fernandez makes a very good point about teams needing to work with each other and save money for the sport to survive. So I think, yeah, why can't teams work together off the track anyway? Why can't they work together and come up with ways in order to save money and can make sure Formula One survives for many years to come? Well, let's be honest, Williams 2013, it's been a rotten year for them, hasn't it? After a promising pre-season for Williams, so much optimism around the team, so much belief that they could challenge at the high end of the grid. It hasn't worked out like that. I think considering how poor the car has been this year, I think Maldonado and Bottas have done as well as they can, really. The car has just not been good enough. And when you think of a team of Williams, the prestige, the history that they've had, they should be right up there. But unfortunately, they're not at the moment. I think if Bruno Senna had still been at the team, would he have made a difference this year? Would Williams have scored more points? I'm not entirely sure, to be honest with you, Matt. I think Williams will want to forget 2013 and move on to 2014. Next year they'll be using Mercedes engines. It's interesting to see how they fare next season. Obviously we've got new turbo engines, got new rules coming into place. So yeah, 2014, I'm sure Williams have definitely got their eye on 2014, and they'll definitely want to make sure 2013 have a strong end to the year and make improvements on what has been, let's be honest, a really terrible year for Williams. So who will be the leading driver for Lotus next year, and will Romain Grosjean be in black and gold next season? Well, let me take your second question, Andrew. I think that Romain Grosjean will be a Lotus driver next season. I think he's done well this year. Okay, would have liked to have been on podium a lot more, as I'm sure he would have liked. But no, I think Romain has had a decent year this year. I can certainly see him challenging for podiums in the remaining races, and we haven't seen him cause many incidents and crashes this year as we saw him causing last year. So yeah, I think Romain has had a good season. I can certainly see him being in black and gold next season. As for who will be his teammate for next year, with Raikkonen having gone to Ferrari, it'd have to be between Felipe Massa or Nico Hülkenberg for me. I think Massa obviously got the experience, great service for Ferrari for I think 8-9 years. I think Felipe will do a good job at Lotus, and yeah, I think he'd do a fine job, and I certainly think he'd get the results. But also Nico Hülkenberg, as well as having the talent, he also brings money as well. We know that Lotus have financial issues, so Hülkenberg alongside Grosjean, I think that will be a decent lineup. I really do. But for me, it has to be between Massa and Hülkenberg for that driver spot alongside Grosjean. I'd be surprised if it's someone else. But as for who will be the lead driver, it's a tough one. It's a really tough one. If Massa is alongside Grosjean. I think Grosjean might potentially be the lead driver, but if it's Hulkenberg and Grosjean, I'm not entirely sure. So I think it'll be interesting to see what Lotus do with their second driver in terms of who will be partnering Grosjean next season, and only time will tell in terms of who they take on to partner Romain Grosjean.